Welcome again to Ruhoni Sewing. My name is Ruth, and today we will have a tutorial on how to draft sleeve pattern. For tutorials on how to draft front bodice pattern as well as back bodice pattern, I have linked those videos in the description box below. Now let us start. Materials needed in this tutorial: we have our tape measure, we have our rubber, we have our straight ruler, we have our pencil, our pair of scissors, we have square ruler as well as the curved ruler, we have our pattern paper, but we also have the pattern for the front as well as for the back. In this tutorial, we will need only two measurements. We will need our sleeve length measurement as well as our armscye measurement. The armscye measurement, we will measure from our patterns, the front and back, and the total of these two armscyes for the front and back is going to make the total length of our armscye measurement. Like I said, we are going to measure from our patterns the armscye of our back as well as that one of the front. And so we are going to start with our back. Make sure that the tape measure is on the standing position so that will be easier for you to measure. Measure the armscye of the back. It is 9.75. And now measure the armscye for the front. Again, you are starting from the shoulder. And the armscye for our back, or from our front I mean, is 9.5 inches. Again, leave a space of 0.5 inches at the sides as well as at the top of your pattern paper. Draw your pattern at the center of your paper so that you have enough space at the top as well as at the bottom to accommodate the length of your sleeve. Now from the top, measure 9 inches going downwards. You can measure more or less depending on the size of your sleeve. Put a mark and then square from that mark across. Make sure the line is long enough to accommodate the size of your sleeve. And then from the sides, measure quarter of your bust measurement. Mine is 9.75, so I decided to put it at 10. And this point will separate your back and your front. So from the point, draw a perpendicular line going downwards. This line will help us while drawing to separate the back and the front side. The left is going to be the back and the right is going to be our front side. So now we are going to trace our patterns. First, consider that our pattern have no ease. If your pattern have ease, then make sure to draw following the original line of your sleeve and not the line of the seam allowance. So to start, like I said, our left is our back. Put your pattern as shown here. Make sure the tip of your armscye touches that point that we put at the center. Then, starting from your shoulder, start to trace your pattern. Trace as shown here. So that is your back armscye. Now for our front armscye, you must turn your paper upside down, and again, as we did with our back, make sure the tip of the armscye of the front touches that center that we've put before, and then start to trace your pattern. Unfortunately, I was not able to show the other part where I was drawing the front pattern up to the shoulder. With your curved ruler, now retrace the curves so that they can now be clearly seen. Also, draw the shoulder line as shown. Now let us label our armscye. On our back, label the shoulder point as A, then the center as B, and the front shoulder as C. Now remember, our back armscye was 9.75 and our front armscye was 9.25. So the total of the back and the front will make the total sum of our armscye. So now with your square ruler, draw a perpendicular line touching the horizontal line, but also touching your front armscye curve. Label the point on your horizontal line as D. Then measure 1/3 of your total armscye measurement. Remember, our armscye measurement is 19, so 1/3 of it is 6.5 inches. Mark a point and label that point as E. Now from point E, with the aid of your square ruler, square across. Now measure half of a distance from D to E and put a mark. Label that point as F, and as you did with the E point, draw a perpendicular line across from F. Now on that line of F, label the point touching the back armscye as G. Then measure half of a distance from F to D. Put a mark and label that point as H. Then with your ruler, mark a point on your curve as shown here and label that point as H1. Now the next step, we are going to measure our curves. Curve A to H1, H1 to B, B to G, and G to A. While measuring, make sure that A to H1 and H1 to B is the total of the front, and B to G and G to A is the total of your back armscye. Now we are starting with our front armscye with curve A to H1 and now H1 to B. Write their measurements. Then we are going to our back armscye, G to A and G to B. and write their measurements. Now let us start to draw our sleeve head. From point H and not H1, draw a distance of C to H1, which was 6 inches. Draw that measurement touching the first horizontal line that we have drawn from point E, and mark your point and label that point as I. Then connect point I to point H with a straight line as shown here. Now for curve A to G, from point I, measure at that distance but touching the second horizontal line that we've drawn from point F. Play with your tape measure until you get the measurement from H to that horizontal line. Put a mark and label that point as K. Then with your ruler, connect point I to point K. Now let us draw the bottom curves, starting with curve H1 to B. Now again, starting from point H, measure a distance of H1 to B. Make sure your tape measure touches the horizontal line as shown. Put a mark and label that point as L, and again connect point H to point L with a straight line. Now with our last curve, G to B, from point K, measure the distance of G to B, which was 4.5, and again make sure you play with your tape until when you get the distance from K to the bottom horizontal line, and label that point there as M. Connect point K to point M, again with a straight line. Now that we have already drawn our sleeve head, point I is the top and the center of our sleeve. So with the aid of our square ruler, I'm going to draw a line going downwards, but here I'm going to draw now the dotted lines, but you can draw a straight line if you wish. Also draw a line from point M going downwards as we did with point M. Also from point L, draw a line, perpendicular line going downwards. Now from point I, measure the length of your sleeve. Mine is 12 inches, it's a short sleeve, and then square from this point on either side of your sleeve. So this is the bottom of our sleeve, and we have the sleeve head. Now let us properly start to draw our sleeve head. From point I to point H, measure 1/3 of this distance. Then going upwards, measure 2 centimeters and put a mark. Now with line H to L, measure half of distance of this line. Put a mark and then measure 1 centimeters from that mark downwards, down from that line. We continue with line I to K, measure half a distance of this line, and then from this point measure 1 centimeter upwards. Now to finish with our last line, line K to M, measure half a distance of this line, put a mark, but here measure only 3/4 of a centimeter downwards and put a mark. To see clearly, I've put the mark we had in a red color. Now with the aid of your curved ruler, now start to draw the sleeve curves. You have to turn your curved ruler all the time so that you have smooth curved lines. So I will draw the sleeve head in a colored pencil so that you can see well. Don't forget to label your sleeve, the front side and the back side. Also show the direction of the green line. Now let us start to cut our pattern. Here is our pattern. This is our basic pattern. It can be modified to make so many different styles.